there, everyone. Today we are going to prove how God or a God exists, right? These are all arguments to prove that your God, well, if it's all powerful, all knowledgeable, and eternal, exists. Step by step guide. And we even have, we're even going to rate, rate the arguments here. So let's go into number one, faith. God is real because I believe in it. Now, this is a terrible argument because there's no evidence involved. Yes, you can have faith, but faith only goes so far. You have to have reasons, which will explain. But if you just believe in because you want to believe, well, that's not true to yourself, and that's not factual, right? Because just because I believe something exists doesn't mean it exists. Like I can believe there's a spaghetti monster in the sky, or what the atheists say. So this is a terrible argument. Let's rate it. Faith goes into F. F tier. Oh, and here are the tiers. S can prove God's existence easily and very convincing. A proves God's existence very well, but a staunch atheist will still deny. B can prove his existence, but there also could be other reasons. C does not do a good job at proving his existence. D bad argument and has fallacies. F terrible argument for his existence. It will make the user seem more unintelligent. Yeah. So let's go into the next one. Because he talked to me or experienced. Now, this one is understandable for converters, okay? He talked to you, he was in your dream, and he showed you the way. But this will not prove anyone, okay? Because they could just think that you're having delusions or that you have dementia or something. You're going crazy. This will not prove it. He appeared to me in a dream, and that's why I believe. Now, this is the difference from evidence/evidential. I'll explain why. But this is understandable to convert from, but you could just be having delusions and stuff like that. So this will not prove an atheist or prove to an atheist that God is real, right? Even if this actually did happen, he actually did talk to you. So let's put this one as bad argument because it's better than saying, "Oh, I believe in him," or "He's real because I believe in him." This is, I saw him. Still a bad argument though. Next one, evidence/evidential. So evidence/evidential. It's just like things that support religious narratives. So I'm only talking about Christian ones here, but for paranormal things, this could be any religion. It's like demon possessions, visions that come true, near-death experiences, and other unexplainable things. Things that actually actually happened or supposedly happened and many people actually saw, right? And then artifacts that support religious narratives, like Jesus' tomb being empty, Shroud of Turin, carriage being at the bottom of the Red Sea, Exodus, Moses, that stuff. And here are the evidence. So for paranormal things, we have Clara Germania Clee. She was a South African girl. When Clara, when she was 16, she allegedly made a pact with Satan. With this, she could speak and understand all languages and would hate being near holy things, according to them. After this, she went haywire and screamed supposedly louder than an East African lion. She got exorcised by a Catholic priest, supposedly flew 5 feet into the air. She was healed and apologized for what she did. So this is actually good evidence. This shows that things out of our nature exist and do happen. So this would be good, and I'll have the link to the Wikipedia article down below in the description. Next, the Shroud of Turin. So this blanket could not only prove Jesus' existence, but also could, also prove his resurrection. This is because the pattern is most likely caused by a fast burst of radiation that can make an image like this without damaging the cloth. So this is also good evidence because there was blood stains on it. It was it was dated, ve- well, very back in the day. It either made in the Middle Ages or during his resurrection. Now they say the Middle Ages because they think it was made by oil painting, but that it wouldn't. I don't think that some person would make an oil painting like this. Plus, um, radiation. If you, I think it was called carbon radiation dating or something like that. It does actually go back to the first century. So, yeah, these are both good pieces of evidence that you can prove. So, let's read it. Why is it not working? There we go. Okay. This does this is goes into B. Can prove existence, but there could also be different other reasons. Now I put this in B, and not like A, because even though these are good points, if you look at their Wikipedia pages, then you can see that they're still staunchly against this, and they think, oh, this supposedly happened. We don't know if this happened. We think that that has narratives, religious narratives. So the atheists still make strong points against these, and this is why I did not put it in S or A tier, because there still could be reasons because they said supposedly she flew 5 feet into the air when she was exorcised by a Catholic priest. Not that she was, even though there was eyewitnesses. So they, I guess, could be lying, but I don't see that. Definitely with this story. Next. The why argument. So basically, you keep asking why for a question, such as how do humans exist or where do morals come from, till they cannot answer with a logical response. Now, if they try to use this on you, just say because God says so, because logically that makes sense, because if God says so as an infinitely powerful being, infinitely knowledgeable, always internal being, then that would make sense, because everything you say is right, because he is infinitely knowledgeable, which means he has more knowledge and more understanding than anyone in the universe. But this is, even though this makes sense, this is a very childish argument that makes you look stupid, since you're just asking why over again. Now, why it's childish and why it's stupid is because you're basically gonna, it makes you look stupid because you're gonna take every single answer and say, just keep asking why. Even if it's like good, they're gonna call you stupid, and it's not gonna convince them because they're gonna be stubborn, and you're gonna keep stubborn, even if they somehow give a good answer. But they probably won't give a good answer because they don't actually know. Anyway, because even though this is good, and this is, oh shoot, this is understandable, this will not make an atheist. Actually, this will make an atheist less likely to submit to the argument, because it's stupid. Or not stupid, but because it makes you look stupid. So it does not do a good job proving existence, even though it does kind of do a good job. Next, we have an amazing argument. The cosmological, everything in our universe needs a creator. So basically, it's just everything in our universe needs a creator because of how the universe is built. We know that the Big Bang happened, but there was already matter and radiation and other molecules floating around. And because of this, well, how is there stuff still existing? Because like, how, just how is it still there? How can it be there? It doesn't make sense, right? Because there was radiation and other stuff, which still needs to be brought into existence with the laws of the universe somehow. So, because of this, everything in our universe needs creator. Now let's see this. It's kind of like a domino change, and because everything needs a reason. Like, let's say you're hungry, the reason why you have metabolism, and then the reason why, all these small little reasons, so we get to God created you. The first, or not, it could not be God. It could be the first action or the creator. So I guess what atheists would say, the Big Bang. but there was still matter and radiation before that, and there's no reason why it would all just collectively come into one bubble. So, because of this, the first causer must be eternal because it is the causer. It must be there before everything else. And because and God or creator must be outside of the realm of understanding, so because it is the first being, right? And because God can cause and change everything, right? And nothing can act upon him because he's the first thing, then he must have infinite power. But to make more sense of this, to make more understanding, we get to go down. Now, Redeemed Zoomer explains this much better than me. But just to say, everything has an act and a potency, right? What it is and what it could be. So, like anything, or let's just say me. I am alive. I could be smart. And to be smart, I need to be acted upon. So, let's go to like a book here. The book act is placed somewhere, right? But it needs to be read for it to work. Or when it is read, then that act will have potency on me. It'll make me smart. So basically, it keeps going down and down, like the domino reaction, or keep going up and up. And basically, because there has to be a start or a causer, or God, he would have to be internal, because if he could not exist, then he isn't the unactualized actualizer. So the Big Bang, that could, even though yes it existed, it wouldn't be the unactualized actualizer, because something would have had acted upon it to make it form, like gravity. But then gravity would need something for it to be created, because it couldn't just, could be always there, because it could not have been there, right? Matter could not have been there. But God, or the first action, first creator, or it has to be unactualized, the unactualized actualizer. So if he could have not existed, then he is in the unactualized actualizer. So he has to exist. He has to always exist, making him internal. Now, after that, because he cannot change, he must be all powerful, right? Because he's the unactualized actualizer. He is everything that he could be, because if he wasn't, then he wouldn't be the first cause. He must be all powerful. And because nothing can change him, right? If anything could change him, like me, then, or like me in this diagram, then he couldn't be all powerful, because then he wouldn't be the first cause. So, yeah. All of this, hope I made it understandable. It makes sense. Basically, because we can change, we cannot, because something can change, it is not the first causer. The first causer has to be something that cannot change, and because it cannot change, it must be all internal and all powerful, and because it's all powerful, it kind of has to be all knowledgeable. Basically, it's God, or a God that's all powerful, all knowledgeable, and eternal. So let's keep going. Oh, issue, I have to rate this. So, this one is a great argument, but a staunch atheist will still deny, and they will probably tell you that it makes no sense, even though it does logically make sense in this way. Because it is complicated, they're probably just not going to hear you out, or because they just don't want to listen to you at all. Next, Pascal wagers. Pascal wagers named after Vasily Pascal, 17th century French match. I just took this image off of Google. But basically, this is Pascal wager. If you believe in God, right, then you have infinite punishment. And if there's no God and you don't believe, there's a finite gain. But if you believe there's God, you get infinite reward. And if you believe and there's no God, you have finite loss, right? So it's basically, if God exists and you believe in him, you win. And even if he doesn't exist, you lose nothing. But if he does exist, and you don't believe, then you get infinite punishment. And if you don't believe in him and he doesn't exist, you don't gain anything. And because of this, it's understandable. But this is a terrible argument to not. This is an argument to believe in God when the evidence is brought upon you that he does exist, rather than this is proof that he does exist, because it's basically just saying, oh, hey, 50-50, it's better to believe than not believe. But the problem arises when you understand that there's multiple gods, there's multiple religions. So this could be for Islam, Hindu, and then you have all these other tons of gods and all these other things that people believe in. So to prove that your God exists, you could still be punished. I mean, not that, but you still could be punished if you believe in God. So this argument still is not the best. See, this argument was created to explain why you should believe in God when you have the evidence, right? Because you could be punished. Anyway, that, or at least evident that you have that you believe in the Christian God or any other God. This is when you use Pascal wagers to tell them why to believe, when they actually believe in the evidence, because they could be punished if they don't, convert. Anyway, this argument is terrible. This is not an argument to believe in God. This is an argument. This is an argument to believe in God, but it's not an argument for God. So we're going to put this in F. Next, consciousness. Okay, so basically, the world is created of atoms, particles, quarks. Not in that order. It's quarks, atoms, then particles. But one atom is not conscious, right? One particle is not conscious. One quark is not conscious. So how can all of these combined, all these atoms or particles or quarks combined, cause conscious? They're just tons of small little chemical reactions that don't really do anything, right? That just move things around. So how do these cause consciousness and upper thinking? And even if it did somehow cause consciousness, why would anything really matter then? Why do morals exist? Why does all this other stuff exist? Because these are just small little atoms in your mind, or little atoms just causing chemical reactions and moving slightly around because of those chemical reactions. So how does this cause consciousness? Also, consciousness is above human and scientific understanding, thus it must come from a higher source, right? Even though we can make AI and stuff like that, we can't replicate the human consciousness because it is too complicated. It's not too powerful, but it's too complicated to understand, too advanced. So because of this, it must come from a higher power, right? Because it's out of our understanding. Also, we know that most people can see colors and taste things. But how do we know we all see and taste the same things, right? So with that, just because we know we all have consciousness doesn't mean we all think or see things in the right way. Like someone could see black as purple or see purple as like red or something like that. Or we could all taste different. Now, how does that correlate with this argument? Is that it's just out of our understanding. All this stuff is out of our understanding, and because of that, we can't know, and because we can't know, and it's out of our understanding, it must come from a higher source or higher power. So consciousness is a pretty good argument, but they'll just keep slamming you with science, even though they don't really have any science to prove that how consciousness exists or how molecules can really form consciousness. Anyway. Next one, math. So how does math prove God exists, right? So basically imaginary numbers. exist mathematically and can be proven, but you cannot see them in the world. Thus, they have to be correlated to a higher dimension of thinking and understanding, right? Imaginary numbers do not correspond or coincide with our world. But they do interact with real numbers. You see in Euler's equation, you can see imaginary numbers interacting with common variables in our world, and actually making sense. Now, because imaginary numbers are out of this world, they must be correlating to some outside world, or outside of our understanding. So basically, because of this, they have to be correlated to some creator or something that caused all this, because you can't have these numbers which make sense mathematically and are understandable, and you can put them in equations and stuff, but they don't correlate to anything. Because if these imaginary numbers are just there, then why should they be there? How do they correlate with real numbers? They have to correlate to something, which makes sense for them to correlate with a world outside of our understanding. Also, in math, there is infinity, right? We know infinity exists. Eternity exists, right? And we can see this in pi or the Mandelbrot set, which you just keep zooming in, and it goes on forever and forever and forever and forever, and it's eternal. So we know eternal things or infinite things can exist. And because we know with imaginary numbers that there's a world outside of our understanding, and we know that eternity does exist with infinity, then we can, suppose that a God or a creator does exist, designing the world because of how it is. So the math argument is pretty good. But an atheist will still deny, saying imaginary numbers correlate with other principles in our world, like quantum physics and stuff like that. Because they correlate with quantum physics, they don't have to be supposed to a higher creator. But go on to another argument, which helps. See, it's kind of like the cosmological argument, except it proves God exists because of who God is or how he exists. So a God is a being where nothing greater can exist, or at least the Abrahamic God. So because all powerful is greater than limited power, all knowing is greater than limited knowledge, exist is greater than doesn't exist, and all good is better than flawed, right? So because of this, God must exist because of his nature, right? Because existing is greater than not existing. So if he didn't exist, then he couldn't be the greatest thing possible imaginable. So just take a second and think about the greatest thing imaginable. Think about an all-powerful, all-knowledgeable, everything possible being, right? He has to exist because if he didn't exist, he wouldn't be the greatest being as possible, right? So he has to exist because of that. Now, this argument is confusing and complicated, and an atheist will not care about it. He'll just say, oh, hey, that doesn't make sense at all, even though it is understandable, because if God, the definition of the greatest thing that can possibly exist, or nothing greater can exist, existing is greater than not existing, and because of that, he kind of has to exist. But an atheist will still reject that claim because he believes that he doesn't exist, and also because they probably think that he's not all good, so he's flawed. But because that there still could be a different God. There goes the rabbit hole. Also, this argument counts out religions that believe in multiple gods, or that the God can have their mind changed, the God is not all good, or cannot be defeated. That also goes with the cosmological argument. So this basically counts out tons of pagan gods, and gods that can be defeated, gods that can have their minds changed, and multiple gods, because these multiple gods aren't have to work together with all their power, meaning that they're not all powerful. Because of that, they cannot really exist. So that this argument should be used less in a way of proving how atheists, or to atheists that God exists, but to pagan religions that their gods do not exist. Next. Oh shoot, wait, hold up. I have to put this on the graph. Wait, did I? Oh, never mind, I already put it there. Okay, cool. Morals. If there are a set of principles that are good and other that are bad, then there is an order in our world, and not everything can be right. Thus, there has to be a creator that institutes these values. So basically, let's say the moral person. I think murder is bad. And another thing is I think it's good. Because murder is bad and everyone knows that, you're obviously going to pick this one. And because you're going to pick this one, we all know that murder is bad. There is set principles that are good and other that are bad. Now you can say, well, actually, they're not. Not everything is bad. Not everything is good. Then why do we have laws? Why do we need laws? Why do we need logic? Why do we need all this other stuff? Without any of these other things, or without really morals or a set principles of morals, then we can't really do anything, or we can't contemplate or understand anything, or we can't know why anything is good. Without morals or a set defined institute principles and values that are good and bad, then why would killing yourself be bad? Why would we need the suicide hotline and all these other things? You can see this in religion, where we, actually have principles and stuff, like in Islam, in Judaism, in Christianity. We have morals, right? But in atheism, you can't really have these morals, because you can't really understand this, because you don't believe in a creator or anything that really created the world. And because of that, you can't prove that really a set line of thinking exists. So because of this, and because morals do exist, this kind of helps prove God. Now this is complicated. Shoot. Complicated. And I don't think now this is pretty good, but I don't think that atheists will really will keep denying it, because they're like, oh hey, no, well, morals actually come from deeper understanding and trying to exemplify the human race to its most greatest and possible position in the world, or whatever they're going to say. And that doesn't. And again, you can just use the why argument, even though it will make you stupid, or you can use the not cosmological argument, but let's see. Well, or this moral argument, you can use the why argument, or you can use the teleological argument after that, and I'll explain that later. But yeah, next, the transcendental argument. So in our systems of understanding, we have worldviews such as logic, consistency in nature, and truth existing. With all of this, there is no way to justify the views established, and a need of a basic framework of these terms is needed to understand science and humans in our world. To conclude, God, or an infinitely powerful and knowledgeable higher power, is needed to make sense of our world. So, we can see this in this little triangle diagram right here. So, basically, we have science, but science has to be pillared on logic, human understanding, truth, and morals, right? Without all of this, we couldn't understand science in all its way, because without logic, then there would be no reason or need to understand science, and arguments and formulas, wouldn't really make sense, because then there wouldn't be a logical reason for them to make sense and stuff like that, right? Human understanding, understanding of humans and our human nature and all this stuff is important to science, or definitely important for understanding of human science, because understanding, how humans work and stuff like that, how our mind works, and how things understand, like political science and stuff like that. Next, truth. Without truth, then there is nothing right, which means science cannot exist, since, science is just clearing up what's right, right? And then, well, morals really doesn't matter here because science doesn't go against morals, but it doesn't really matter with morals. And for at least logic, human understanding, and truth, you need God or an infinitely powerful and knowledgeable higher power. And why, you may ask? Well, because none of these make sense alone, right? Truth. Well, why do we need truth without a higher power? Why do we need truth at all? Why does truth exist? How does truth exist? And, well, scientists and other people say, well, yeah, of course truth exists. But then they will also deny truth when talking about, like, transgenderism or abortion or any of this other stuff, because they don't actually truly believe in truth. What their truth is their progressive values that they have, put on top their own thing, because they believe that science is God, basically. Hello? Okay. Well, anyways, they believe that science is their God now, and because of that, they don't need him anymore. But for logic, again, truth, and human understanding and morals, you need a God, because none of this stuff makes sense without a God or a infinitely powerful and knowledgeable higher power. Next. Oh, wait, let me read it. I say this probably is the best argument because it is it's getting into the atheist's mind, right? For the atheist wants science to be on the top and primordial. That's why whenever a atheist that will debate against Christianity, he obviously will talk about, oh, hey, well, I don't believe in your sky daddy. I actually believe in science and all its principles, because he thinks that science is science is his God. And I don't know, because of that, he just doesn't believe in that stuff anymore. So that's basically, this is going to be your way to get into an atheist mind, because if you put science on the top of it, or you make science this very important thing, and then you show why, without logic, a human understanding of truth, and consistency in nature, that doesn't really make sense by itself, then you'll break their scientific arguments, and thus you'll prove to them that God exists. Thus, it's a very powerful argument for atheists, because atheists love science. Science is their new God. So, yes, I rate it really high. Next, teleological. Now, things in our universe seem like they have a purpose. We can see this in the fine-tuning of our universe, where if gravitational pull was changed by a decimal, then the universe would either collapse in on itself or never form anything. Because of this, or because of all the circumstance, it is understandable to believe in a creator or God that designed this universe, right? So, to show this, you see a machine, and because it was created to do something, right? You think something had to design this machine. You see some cookies baked, or you see baked cookies. Someone had to bake those cookies, right? Because they can't just have created them by themselves. Same thing with the machine. Something had to create it. And because of that, that can be shown in our world, where it's such fine-tuned to a standard where if something was off by just a little bit, then it wouldn't exist. Same thing with like these cookies. If you added like just too much flour, then they would come out really weird. They wouldn't be sweet. They wouldn't taste good. They would look weird. Same thing with the machine. If you calibrated its sensitivity, let's say on, I don't know what machine this is. I think it's a laser cutting. But if you make its laser too powerful, then it's going to burn the metal, and when it cuts the metal sheets, they won't come out good, right? Same thing with our world. If they were just changed a little bit, the world wouldn't have worked. Well, it still would have existed, but it wouldn't have worked. So because of our fine-tuning, just like a fine-tuning of a machine or some really nicely baked cookies, they had to have a creator because it's such well finely tuned. And because of this is actually like a pretty good argument. say this is pretty well, right? Because it explains, you know, again with this transcendental, you bring science into it, so an atheist isn't able to pull the Sky Daddy card on you. And then, yeah, with that's basically all my arguments. Have a great day, and God bless you. Thank you so much for watching. If you put your name in the comments, I will shout you out next video. Anyway, thank you so much for watching it, and I will continue dropping, more videos. God bless you. Have a great day. Godspeed.